very good morning to one and all. At the outset, I would like to apologize for this delay, but due to some technical issues, we could not start on time. We've been experiencing the whole roller coaster of emotions for the past few minutes because there was some technical problem, but we are back now, and a warm welcome to one and all for this national webinar on strengthening the emotional world. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, madam. Go ahead. Don't wait. Go ahead.
Okay. A very warm welcome to one and all for this national webinar on strengthening emotional world in the COVID times. Organized by the Department of Psychology, Srimati P. N. Doshi Women's College, in association with Mumbai University and College Teachers Association, MUCTA. The beauty of emotional language is that everyone can understand it, no matter what background, culture, and place one belongs to. Through this webinar, we aim to unfold the world of emotions and touch upon our emotions and ways to regulate these emotions so that we can deal with the pandemic situations effectively. I would like to invite our head, Madhuri Vaidya, and to tell us something about this webinar as well as the department. Over to you, Madhuri ma'am.
Thank you, Amita. A very warm morning to all dear students who are the participants of this webinar on strengthening emotional work in COVID times. My friends, from the registration, we all realize that there are many students who are participating in this webinar from different colleges in Mumbai and outside Mumbai, rather from different states like Gujarat, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, and Kerala, and so on. So we thought that we should introduce you all to our department, the Department of Psychology at Srimati P. N. Doshi Women's College, which is situated at Ghatkopar in Mumbai, and the college which is affiliated to SNDT Women's University. Just to talk about the department in brief. The department started in 1985, offering specialization in psychology at undergraduate level. Being from the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, the department has been successful in imbibing basic values such as self-esteem and self-respect and empathy among the students, of course, apart from teaching the course. Since 1990, the department has its own counseling center, Sanchetana, which provides an emotional first aid, that is personal counseling, and is very active in conducting different programs related to mental health for the staff, students, and the society in general. Rather, today's program is a gesture of the same. An important milestone of our department is in 2004, we have started with post-graduation course in industrial psychology. We have MA in industrial psychology with special facilities for the students, that is a good placement ratio and certificate course that we provide to students joining this MA industrial psychology course in collaboration with well-known management school in Mumbai. So without taking much of the time from the session as such, in brief, this is our department, and I welcome all of you to the Department of Psychology at SP N. Doshi Women's College. Thank you so much. Over to Amita. Amita, unmute.
Now, I would like to invite our principal, Dr. Asha Menon, who's always been a support in all our endeavors, a very approachable leader, Dr. Asha Menon to speak a few lines about our college as well as formally welcome the participants. Asha ma'am.
Over to Asha madam.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on strengthening emotional world in COVID times, organized by the Department of Psychology, S.P. Doshi Women's College, Mumbai. But before I talk about the webinar, I want to introduce my college to the many participants who are not from Mumbai. S.P. Doshi Women's College has been recognized as one of the top performing institutes in the country by NAC in 2017.
I think
For the
she's having some connection issues.
underprivileged and needy students by providing them with subsidized education. The motto of the college is to assist students complete higher education by providing them physical, psychological, and financial support. Coming back to this webinar, dear students, we are in the midst of a worldwide pandemic with cities and even entire countries shutting down. Some of us are in areas that have already been affected by coronavirus. Others are bracing for what may come. All of us are watching the headlines and wondering what is going to happen next. For many of us, the uncertainty surrounded by the coronavirus is the hardest thing to handle. We don't know how exactly we'll be impacted or how bad things might get. And that makes it all too easy to catastrophize and spiral out into overwhelming dread and panic. But there are many things we can do even in the face of this unique crisis to manage our anxiety and fears. All of us are going to need reassurance, advice, or a sympathetic ear during this difficult time. But be careful whom you choose as the sounding board. The coronavirus is not the only thing that is contagious, sorry. So are emotions. Avoid talking about the virus with people who tend to be negative or who reinforce and ramp up your fears. Turn to the people in your life who are thoughtful, level-headed, and good listeners. Protect yourself and be supportive to others. Assisting others in their time of need can benefit both the person receiving support and the helper. Managing your mental health and psychological well-being during this time is as important as managing your physical health. To address these challenges, we have with us an eminent personality, Ms. Sulabha Subramaniam, Senior Consulting Therapist and Trainer, IPH and Mosaic Center, Thane. I welcome you, Madam. We are all waiting to hear from you. I would also like to welcome Dr. S. Kumudavali, Madam, Director, SPRJK Trust, a source of immense inspiration and strength to all of us. I would also like to welcome all the vice principals, coordinators, teachers, and all participants to this webinar. I would like to compliment the psychology department for organizing such a relevant webinar. I once again welcome each one of you to this webinar on strengthening emotional world in the COVID times. Over to Ms. Amita Kendulkar for the rest of the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Your support is always valuable to us. In normal situation, we would have conducted this session for our college students. In this new normal situation, we could reach out to more than 700 participants across India. And this was only possible because of the online platform given to us by Mukta. I would now ask Subhash Athavale to talk about Mukta, introduce us to Mukta and its activities. Over to you, Subhash.
Good morning, all of you in the newsroom and to all the participants. I take this opportunity to congratulate, first of all, the Psychology Department of PN Doshi and the leader, Dr. Asha Menon, Madam, for organizing such a wonderful seminar for the participants, because the situation rightly said by Asha Madam that it is very disturbing, and the emotional quotient which is there is also disturbed a lot. And because of which it is very difficult to perform. Also, there are uncertainties in the examination, which is again causing lot of problem to the students. I think we take this opportunity as a Mukta to host, and as we all know that Mukta is affiliated to ABRSM, that is Akhil Bharatiya Rashtriya Shaikshik Parishad, which is our central body. And we work on the tagline that Rashtra ke hit mein shiksha, shiksha ke hit mein shikshak, shikshak ke hit mein samaj. To do that, to follow that tagline, we have started immediately after 8 days of the lockdown. We have started with the series of webinar under Dattopant Thengdi, who is the who is the founder of our Akhil Bharatiya Rashtriya Shaikshik Parishad. With his name, we have done 14 webinars, and we could reach out to all the universities throughout India, around 107 universities, and we could reach out to not less than 2,800 participants at a time through our webinars. We also have a Twitter account, we also have a YouTube channel, and I'm very happy and proud to announce that we have around 4,000 plus regular subscribers, and this program shall be watched because the link has gone to all 4,000 subscribers, and they'll be watching our program. Also, we have started with our website, that is mukta.in, where we have submitted all the helpful links for the teachers and all the circulars which are there, which is helpful for the teachers. We are also in the process of developing a platform on Moodle, which we'll be launching very soon on our website, and through which we'll be able to give some technical courses to our teachers community. I take this opportunity to congratulate PN Doshi College once again, and I hand over mic to Amita Madam for further proceedings. Thank you.
It's not taking much of your time. I know we are already delayed, but just a few lines or a few thoughts about why we have organized this webinar. Because schools and colleges are now nearly closed for around 4 months. During these unprecedented times, we have devised our own mechanisms to deal with the situation. For our homebound students, especially, limited interactions with friends, examination uncertainty, financial insecurities have put a lot of pressure on our emotional strength. We've all realized that COVID times, COVID situation is here to stay for long, and it is a test on our mental strength. As the unlocking of the lockdown period begins, we need to equip ourselves with psychological help to stay psychologically healthy and safe. The world outside cannot be changed. What we can change and regulate is the emotional world within us, which influences our thoughts as well as our behavior. Keeping this in mind, the Department of Psychology wanted to have a dialogue with the students, helping them to boost their psychological health through strengthening their emotional world. For this, we have a senior consultant therapist and a trainer, Sulbha Subramaniam. To introduce our speaker today, I would like to invite Meet, my colleague, to introduce Sulbha Subramaniam. Over to you, Meet.
Thank you, Amita ma'am. A very good morning to one and all present here. And introducing our resource person for the day is nothing short of a privilege in itself. As someone who truly lives the discipline she practices, Ms. Sulbha Subramaniam is a friend, guide, and mentor to many young practitioners in the domain. As a senior consulting therapist and trainer attached to both IPH, that is the Institute for Psychological Health, and Mosaic Center, both of which are at Thane. She has had more than 2 decades of experience in psychotherapy and has trained several budding psychotherapists and telecounselors. She's also been the coordinator of Maitra, which is the telecounseling helpline of IPH, a service that provides invaluable emotional first aid to anyone approaching it. She's a trained practitioner of REBT, disaster counseling, mindfulness-based psychotherapy, and Gestalt techniques. Along with Dr. Kamaljeet, who is a practicing psychiatrist, she runs a support group called LOC at IPH for the last 10 years for the caregivers of teens and young adults who are living with personality disorders. She's associated with many NGOs like Search, Kshamata, etc. in various capacities, and is also the founder board member of Belief, which is an organization in Pune that works with children and women from marginalized communities, empowering them through education, sanitation, and health. She's a person with diverse interests like reading, painting, traveling, photography, dancing, poetry writing, all of which translate into a unique perspective and insight when it comes to her utmost passion, which is connecting with people. Hence, when we as a department thought of today's session, there was an immediate unanimity in our choice of who should address the topic. And it was none other than Ms. Sulabha Subramaniam. So without taking any more of your time, I hand it over to Sulabha ma'am.
Okay. So, hello everybody. I am so glad that I'm here finally, and to come clean to everybody who's listening. The problem was at my end, like the department Mukta and the Department of Psychology, P.N. Doshi College had done everything, and we even had a trial, and then it had to go further. And on the go, I had to think, like, they were helping, I was wondering, and then somehow or the other, we have managed this by taking somebody's help. Okay, so breathing. All right. So first and foremost, I want to really thank all these like 700 students. I'm like impressed, honestly. I mean, and from all over the country, it's fantastic because, you know, like it's really, really impressive that at such a young age, you all are really giving so much cognizance to the emotional wellness. It's not just COVID time. I have seen that in many young people, there is this awareness and there's this wish for emotional wellness right in the beginning. And I'm really, really impressed with the young generation of today. And now, of course, it's a difficult time and we all need it, right? So there's going to be a lot of sharing, and I'm sure eventually we will also land up learning from you in the question answer sessions. Okay, right. So to begin, I would really, really like to thank SNDT Universities and P.N. Doshi College, Women's College. This is really a great initiative. I mean, I have not seen many colleges take this kind of a thing up. So it's really, really very forward thinking. So thank you, Madam Principal Dr. Menon. Thank you, Madhuri Vaidya, Madam, and your Department of Psychology, which has always come up with innovative thing. I'm really, really so impressed. Thanks to all your members, and especially to Amita for following up relentlessly and helping out with every small thing that I needed. Yeah. So let's begin with a confession. Okay. One confession is over, but now with all these things happening, and you know, usually I really enjoy doing this thing in person because I really like interacting, and there is this give and take of energy and there's a little banter. So though this digital media is helping us reach so many people, still for me, there is something missing. So to make myself feel good, and of course, like with this whole last half an hour of mess happening, I needed something to calm me down. Okay, so I've got along with me a friend who's going to be attending with all of us. So can I introduce? All right. So this is Droopy. Can you see? This is Droopy. He is my daughter's favorite toy from years ago. And I like to have him around because it's like a whole nostalgia trip. Plus, it gives me a sense of security. All right. So he is going to sit there and listen with his big ears, and I hope all of you do too. All right. So that is the way, that is one of the ways in which, like these little ups and downs, I try to cope with. So Droopy is one of them. And I have another list that I have discovered along the way. Sometimes I go for a walk, sometimes I go have an ice cream, talk to a friend, or maybe, go watch some dance program or something like that, read a book, write a poetry. And I'm sure all of you must have had so many of such, tricks up your sleeve to make things all right for you, right? But now what has happened? Why is it not working? We've been seeing on and off everybody talking in groups, on social media, on television, everywhere you see in newspapers, people are talking about like, there's a low phase. Why is it happening? Why are these things failing now? Actually, when we started out, it was just some weird infection, somewhere in some country. And then before you know it, it's at your doorstep. It's affecting your society. It's affecting your homes. It's affecting your personal life. And you don't know what to do because, okay, so when it first started, there was this 3 weeks of lockdown. And we all thought, okay, fine, like, that's okay. 3 weeks I can manage. We all thought like that. In fact, it was like a welcome break, right? We thought, okay, fine, we'll chill, we'll do things that we've never done before, we'll spend time with family. There were these emotional messages and posts coming all over saying, how family time, like reconnecting with family, and how nature is, healing and things like that, which was all very nice. And then later on, slowly, when one thing led to the other and it kept increasing, we realized this is not ending very soon. And that's when a whole lot of emotional chaos started happening. So what kind of emotions? Why are they happening? It is like this sense of grief. There is fear, there is anger, there is anxiety, there is despair, there is even denial, like, oh, kuch nahi hota hai, I'll go out without a mask, whatever it is. I don't care, whatever is happening, like, it's okay. Even that. And then there is again that backtracking. There's withdrawal. There are people who are not even coming out, or there are people who are just going all out. There's a lot of confusion. We are not in our basic self, like in our core anymore. We are reactive, more like. Why? Why is it that way? Any idea? Give it a thought. Okay. So what is happening is there is this whole gamut of emotions coming up, and it is just throwing us off radar, because from the one hand, we feel that this is not fair. Life cannot be like this. It ought not to have happened. Why is it happening? Why me? Why now? Like students were going to go on vacations. They were going to have exams. Some did, some didn't. And like, you all were looking forward to some career, or maybe, studying for something more. And then suddenly everything has gone for. There's a sense of loss. A sense of loss, which is very deep. It's grief for this sense of loss and that helplessness, not having any control. So what all have we lost? There is life as we knew it before COVID. Okay, there is this like, BC and AD, it's almost like that, before COVID and after COVID. Life is very different. You don't see people on the road, you don't see rush, you don't run for the trains, nothing. You don't casually hang out with your friends. There's no shopping, there's no picnic, there's no family outing, there are no weddings, nothing is happening. And there is always this suspicion, there is this thing hanging on your head. There's a loss of control in many different ways. What has happened is, all along we used to take things a lot for granted. We used to think like, little bit here and there, ups and downs are there, but life is going to be okay. I mean, it's going to come back. I'm going to manage. And then suddenly it hits you. I'll give you an example. Okay, you see this? Okay, this is not a decoration. What happened was, suddenly day before yesterday, in the evening, there was some some problem, and I had to emergency undergo a procedure on my palm. So it came so much out of the blue that it threw me off gear. And then the doctor said, no, you got to do it right away. So it was done. And then when it was being done, like thoughts were racing in my mind, like, oh my God, like I didn't cook my dinner, and who's going to do the housework, and I had to prepare for this webinar. Is things going to be okay? How long do I have to be in the hospital, etc., etc., etc. And then I said, okay, fine. Let me calm down. Let me go home and see what to do. Okay. So luckily, having been in the profession, you can sort of try to ground yourself, hopefully. And then I went home, and I like tried to manage, like my husband helped a bit and stuff like that. And then I realized, oh shit, I can't comb, and I can comb, but I can't tie my hair. There are these simple little things. You don't even think about it at any other odd point of time. And then in the night, I just found, like, I have a habit of putting my hand underneath my head and sleeping on my side. I can't do that. So these little things were irritating so much. And then I realized how much I used to take all these things for granted, like just take it in my stride. My body, my arm, my palm, everything that I could do without even thinking suddenly became a big task. This is what I realized. And then I said, like, this is not happening. I just had to, why? Like that thing came surging up again. So, okay, like, don't judge me, okay? Like, even though I'm old, and even though I've been in mental health for 20 odd years, it's allowed. I'm a person. Okay. So I allowed that, mental cribbing for 2 minutes. And then I said, okay, fine. Now get back to normal. How do I do it? Breathe. Calm down. Take a slow, deep breath, couple of times, calm down. And now, instead of why me, why now, why is it happening, what the hell, etc., shift from why to how. That gives me things to do. Okay. So how do I manage this? Okay, if I cannot tie my hair, how do I do it? Can I take somebody's help, or can I manage some other way? Things that I have not tried before, so on and so forth. So basically you shift to how. How do I do this? How do I manage? How do I get my resources? Can I contact my old ones? Can I get some new ones? How do I work around obstacles instead of trying to demolish them or trying to sit crying about them? This is what I thought. So the how is what gives you power. And that is what you need to go by. So that's what I did. So when I did that, slowly, I started getting a hang on things. And that whole thing of irritation and helplessness melted away. We live in this whole dream world that life has to be ideal. Whatever we plan has to come true. And, like what we dream ahead, like this wonderful ideal life where nothing ever goes wrong. This is a fallacy. It doesn't exist. It's only there in our head. And we try to look at it as our reality. Unfortunately, it's nice to dream. We must dream. We must have dreams. But we have to understand that these are dreams. These are not reality. How can we convert as many dreams as possible towards reality is the trick. Now, how can we do that? So, what we have to do is to focus on the things that we can do, things that we can manage, not on why is it that way, things outside of our control. Why is it this way? Why is it not that way? Why is the weather like this? Why is the government like this? No. Focus on things that you can do. That is when you inch towards at least whatever are the doable parts. All right. Otherwise, what happens is all the time you're going through these emotions up and down, up and down, up and down. Sometimes you're on a high, sometimes you feel like horrible and low. And then it's like a roller coaster or a giant wheel. Sometimes it's like you're fantastic, you're feeling great, and sometimes you're down in the dumps. Okay. So what happens is when you are not in your normal, when you're not in your regular range of emotions, there's a lot of drain on your energy. And then it just tires you out. Whatever faculties of the brain you have, whatever resources that you can manage, whatever new solutions that you can get to, you just can't think of it because your brain is so tired just dealing with the onslaught of emotions. So the thing to do is to either let it calm down on its own, because it does over a period of time. It does, you've been angry sometimes, you've been sad sometimes, you've been terrified sometimes, but it comes down. So either you wait for its natural process to happen with the flow and let it come down, or you take charge of it, you take action. So there are mainly, out here, let's talk just about the two ways that we can do it. One is very common, we use distraction, right? So what do? We, like I said earlier, we think up of some song, we sing, we dance, we distract ourselves by sometimes just going to sleep, going for a walk, or talking to some friend, cooking up something, tidying up something. So we just shift our attention from the problem area to something that will occupy us and give us pleasure. Now that's a fantastic tool, but that's not enough. Most of the time the problem is we stop there. So after doing that, when the brain has come back to normal, that's when you need to go back and ask yourself, what went wrong? What was it that in my thinking or in my circumstances that I could change and work on it? But usually what happens is we just leave it at that because things are okay now. Who's going to go back and clear up the mess? So that's why it keeps happening again and again. And then you feel like, oh my God, it's so short-lived. Why is it happening? And it becomes like a pattern. You think negatively. The other way is mindfulness. I'm sure everybody's heard of it. Everybody knows it by now. Basically, it is from our culture itself. It comes from Buddhist philosophy, and it also comes from our own meditative practices. However, now that it is structured and it's become popular, everybody knows about it, and which is fantastic. It's like a great thing to do, right? So we go to mindful breathing. Now, how is it different from ordinary breathing? Anyway, we breathe, right? But like I said earlier, we just take it for granted. So what we do is in mindful breathing, we focus our awareness on the nose, on the area where the air is entering, the nostrils, the nose, and the area above the upper lips. Let the air slowly fill your lungs completely. Feel that energy, feel the positive energy, and then slowly let it out. So you slow down processes and you do it with great awareness. All right. This is experiencing using all your senses. Now, how does that help? Okay, so this is one thing. The other thing is also similarly, you be mindful about the body. So you scan your body, just let your attention go from one part of the body to the other, scan your body completely, and pay gentle, kind attention to whichever areas seem to have weird sensation. Either there's a tightness or there's a knot, there's some sticky thing, there's some sensation which is troublesome, painful, heavy, scary, whatever it might be. Just pay kind, gentle attention, as if you're just sitting next to a friend who's scared, who's hurting, who's angry, and giving such compassionate support. I'm there for you. It's just that. Okay. So you scan your body and you pay attention to the breath. Now, both these things, what happens is, all right, so it gives signals to your brain. Now, let me explain this. Everybody knows the brain has got this spinal cord and this whole network of nerves that goes to all parts of the body, right? Each and every little cell. There's a reverse flow also. So the body also gives signals back to the brain. So in this thing, what we are doing is we are using our breath and our body. By calming it down, we are giving a reverse signal to the brain that it's okay. There's no need to get hyper. There's no need to feel scared. It's okay. Calm down. So the production of the neurochemicals, all emotions are neurochemicals, right? So the production of neurochemicals starts coming down. The brain becomes okay. Just like a hyperactive child, when you calm it down, okay, just sit down, pat, gently, okay? So that settles down. And that is when, again, it opens your insight to what is your thinking. What are the things that were affecting you? You look at it without the emotional covering, so you can actually see it for real. And you can decide whether to go with it, what changes you want to do, what are the factors that you can consider as important for you at this moment. And again, it's in the here and now. It's in the present moment, not in the past, not in the future, just now, right? So all that gives you that sense of complete picture and a direction of what to do. So again, it is that loss of control, loss of, that sense of what am I doing? Like, I don't know what to do, that helplessness, that goes away because you're doing whatever you can with your body and with your mind. Everything is interconnected. The body, the mind, the soul, the environment, it's all one big system. So we can't separate one from the other. And that's what Gestalt is all about. It acknowledges that everything is interconnected. The same thing I have seen in social work when we do the systems theory. That also says the same thing. Everybody affects everybody else. Everything affects everything else, whether in a small way or a big way, but that happens. And we've got to acknowledge that because that's our strength. So we can use various different factors to influence us in the right way. All right. So how now, after getting it back to normal, then we have to ask ourselves, what is happening here? Is this going to be permanent? We don't know. So that is the uncertainty part, right? Is life going to be this way? Is this the new normal? Every now and then we see that the definition of new normal is changing. Sometimes the virus was, like coming through these droplets. Sometimes it's airborne. Sometimes it is here. Sometimes it is not there. Sometimes the incubation period is a few days or a few weeks or whatever. So it's uncertain, right? But that is what it is. Now, because of the danger, we are not realizing that all along, life has always been uncertain. I mean, if you look back at your own life, can you think of it? Life has always been uncertain. We fool ourselves. We assume that we know only certain things. There's a whole lot we don't know. And there are things that change every now and then. All right. But what happens is why we don't feel so shaken about it most of the time is because those changes, those uncertainties are there in the known realm. They are there in an area where we know, like within this framework, things are going to change. Okay, there are sudden holocausts sometimes, sudden calamities sometimes, that's different. But on the whole, it's in the known realm, right? So, for example, at the most, I study very well, etc., but that year the paper is very difficult and I don't get as many marks as I thought I would. So that is a uncertainty, but it is not something that's going to totally throw you off gear. That's something where you can work on it or you can accept it and get ahead with life. Life doesn't stop. Whereas here, what we are thinking is that everything is gone wrong. Everything is messed up. Nothing is ever going to come. So we are perpetuating this feeling because of the brain having gone totally out of gear, right? So the point is, at the moment now, we need to acknowledge that for all of us, there is an elephant in the room. I'm sure you all know this term, right? The elephant in the room. So what are we trying to do? The elephant in the room is not just Corona. It's not Corona, actually. Actually, now what has happened is Corona and COVID had become the new bad words. But I mean, it's like an organism, a virus, like any other living thing, any other creation of God, right? At the moment, it's like inconvenient to us, to say the least. But yeah, I mean, that is not the problem. How we respond to this current situation is the problem. So that is the elephant. We are not acknowledging that we are losing it. All right. So how did this elephant go into the room? Actually, it went into the room when it was very small. It was like a tiny baby. And then we kept feeding it. We fed it with all sorts of things. Why the hell this is happening? This cannot happen. Why should it? I want it this way. I want it just now. And oh my God, like nothing works in life and like whatever. So a whole lot of very strong emotions, either super excited, super confident, so the extreme of positive, extreme of negative, both are not really good for our mental health. But that's what happens. Like we are excitable, we are human. All right. So, but that happens. Like here, what we are feeding it is anger, disbelief, denial, anxiety, helplessness, hopelessness. There's this whole thing of angst, like, like this community is like that, this country is like that. So we are all externalizing things. But half the time there's no truth in it. Or even if there's truth, you can't do anything about it. So we are not focusing on what you can do. So what happens is, before, okay, so what is the solution? The thing is, either we have to deflate the elephant, or we have to expand the room so that, like, we can let it out. How do we do that? Anybody knows? I mean, is there any special procedure? All right. So I think both is possible. If we take this metaphor as the room being our brain and the elephant being our emotions, we can do this. All right. So how do we deflate? We have to get control on emotions. And how do we expand the room? We have to make our brain more adept, more open, more inclusive, and open to experimentation, open to trying out new ways of thinking and doing. All right. So before we go there, I think we need to understand a little bit about the brain, so that going ahead, it becomes easier to understand what I'm talking about, and also it's like a good take home, because this is something that is there in us. So it's our tool. So it's good to understand our tools better, right? I am not sure how much of it you all learn in your curriculum, but in any case, I'll just make it very short. So our brain, the front portion out here is our cognitive brain. So that is the human part of the brain, is the analytical brain, where there are all these thinking circuits, and we get data from everywhere, all the senses and our instincts, everything, we keep getting data, and that is processed in our thinking circuits. And these circuits are formed right from birth till early adulthood, like late teens, early adulthood. So all along that, various different influences, I'm not going to go into that. So they keep happening. And along the way, we keep on reinforcing the same, like if the same thing keeps happening, that keeps reinforcing. So the thinking circuits start becoming very, very crystallized, and it becomes a pattern. So it becomes like normally how we think. It becomes like an immediate response. Okay. So we understand this. So these are where you get cues from the surroundings. Now behind is the larger part of the brain. So like 70% of the part, which is automatic. Okay. So we share it with all animals, at least the higher animals, definitely. So, I mean, let's not think that we are so great or whatever. We share a large part of brain with most animals. So anyway, we are animals, right? So we have to have it. And that's a very useful part, because it takes care of all our voluntary functions. Plus it takes care of everything that's routine. So if you've been riding a cycle for 5 years and you don't do it for the next 10 years, and you suddenly have a cycle at hand and you want to ride it, you'll be able to do it, because so many years, like some poetry you've learned in school, or things that you keep in a particular place, you don't need to look for them again and again. So that's stored in that brain. So it's like a very, very important thing. Plus it has got the animal instinct tools, okay, the survival tools. So what are they? So mainly these responses are in 3 categories. So when the thing comes, and okay, so between these two is this small part but very powerful part, which is the emotional brain. All right. So it's a system where, let's call it amygdala for short. So the amygdala, the emotional brain, it takes in the analysis from the cognitive brain and sends a signal, and it produces emotion, and it affects the body. So you get palpitation, you get churning of the stomach, etc., when it's high. All right. So what happens is, when emotions run high, they go on a shutdown. Like the high voltage of emotions go on a shutdown, and then we create a situation where we are only operating from the animal brain. Now there are 3 main ways in which this happens. Okay, the reactions. One is in human terminology. One is, oh shucks, like what has happened, like oh my god. Okay, so that is anxiety. The other one is, what the hell, like There's full anger, aggression. The third one is, oh my God, like what do I do? What do I do? So it's like all about fear and sadness, helpless feeling. All right. So these are the three main things. Now, again, since this is the thing, and aggression is the best defense, what we do is we generally attack. Either we attack openly or we attack in a very covert way. So we'll withdraw, we will not talk, we will not eat food, all those kind of things, the negative parts. All right. So this is what happens. But if we do all this, then we are not getting anywhere, because all these kind of reactions, which are like a pattern, are contraindicatory. It is like, instead of coping, so like I said earlier, you use one of those two methods that I talked about, either distraction and then analysis of thought and correction, modification of the thought and applying it, because just thinking of it is of no use. You got to apply it. All right. Or you have to use the mindfulness techniques. All right. So throughout all this, we have to keep getting us back into reality, in the here and now reality, not the reality of the past, not the assumed reality of the future, but the reality of today. And that reality is based on fact, not what I feel is there, but what I can see, tangibly see, what I can insist, like, that other people can also see and verify, those kind of facts. So, like, for example, I'll tell you something like how we differentiate between fact and fiction, or fact and reality and feeling. So, say for example, like I send a message to my daughter, like she lives abroad, so I send a message to my daughter, and she doesn't respond for 2 days. I'm like, what the hell? So the immediate thing is, oh, she doesn't love me, she doesn't care, she doesn't want me, I'm not important for her. If I think like that, I'm going to feel resentful, I'm going to feel sad, I'm going to feel lonely, and I'm going to be irritated with my husband, who has nothing to do with all this, right? Instead of that, if I decide like, okay, let me figure out what is there. Let me first ask. So I send a message, I'm worried about you, why have you not responded? Are you busy, or are you unwell, or is there something wrong? When I do that, I open a conversation again. But if I stay with my earlier thought, I was like, okay, I'll show her, I'm also not going to respond. It doesn't get me anywhere. It spoils the relationship, right? And if she says, okay, you irritate me, I don't want to talk to you, I don't love you, then I can say it's a fact. Otherwise, it's a figment of my imagination coming from a very hurt space. So what we have to do is avoid assumptions, interpretations, predictions, because we think that we are God and we know everything. So we predict like, aage na I see hone wala, like, this is going to happen, that is going to happen. So we can say this is my estimate, but we can't say that this is definitely going to happen. Okay, even an astrologer cannot predict it to that, that accuracy, or even God for that matter. I'm sure like he has a lot of options, whatever. So the thing is, when we do this, we start getting grounded. We remove out all the chaff, we remove out all the rubbish from the facts, and then we are face to face. Then at least we know what we are facing, and then we can decide what we can deal with, where I need help, and what I have to let go. So we can segregate that, then there's less load on your brain. The second thing you have to do is shift from, like I said earlier, shift from the why to the how, because that gives you a sense of power, sense of control. You're at least doing something. If not everything, you're at least doing something for yourself. And as you go along, you get more and more confident, you get more and more hang of things. Maybe along the way, you meet someone new who can put in some more inputs or help in some way. So you are at least doing things that you can do, and that makes a lot of difference. So instead of cribbing, you start looking at what can be done. Similarly, now in this particular situation, everybody is in the same boat, right? So earlier, what happens is, you are having a problem, you cry on somebody's shoulder, that somebody gives you some support, it's okay. But now, who are you going to cry? Okay, there are some people who are really upbeat and very confident, very stable, that's great. But you won't always get something, because everybody is in the same boat. All right. So when that is there, you observe. You look at people, how are they carrying themselves? How are they thinking? What is their approach? What feel do you get? Why? What vibe do you get from them? And then see if you can imbibe something, see if you can explore, experiment, and find something new within you. Because honestly, till I die, I mean, I'm like 61, and I know along the way how many times I have discovered something I never knew was there in me. And I'm sure that will happen even later. You see? So that is the thing. So you keep on doing this and avoid jumping to conclusions. Similarly, avoid jumping to the future. The future is where it's not now. Like future is in the future, right? So why do you want to run there? You are in the present. It's like I'm in a party. I want to enjoy my party. However, I keep thinking of the picnic where I will go, like the outing I will go 1 month later. And I'm not here. I'm not here. I'm not in the present. I'm not enjoying my party at all. So that's like really unproductive. Let's really very, very much going against the whole thing of taking charge of your life. Okay. So in any case, see, everything is always unpredictable, uncertain. So be in the here and now and look at yourself, look after yourself. Self-care is one non-negotiable thing. Self-care in all ways. So you take care of your physical health, you take care of your emotional health, you take care of your social health, spiritual health, your relationships, and the inner core which half the time remains unexplored. We take it for granted. It's like there, we don't even notice it. We don't know who we are. So it's not as if everybody has to become a sadhu and start exploring within, but keep digging. You get enough time from time to time when you're traveling and like be with yourself for a bit. What has happened, now, like we are so used to like being external, like everything is outside. We fail to be with ourselves. Everybody gets bored. If you're left alone, everybody gets bored. But if you are friends with yourself, you'll never be totally shaken. That is something very important. Now, along this line, we've seen in the last couple of weeks, especially, I think since till March, April, things were okay. But from mid-April, when things started going worse, and you kept hearing of more cases coming in your locality and lockdown extending, and suddenly there are new rules coming, etc., a lot of mood swings. My clients are calling up with mood swings. Then we hear people talking around. There are messages coming, like some people are, uncharacteristically upbeat, which is not even realistic. Some people are very, very negative about everything and criticizing everything and feeling down in the dumps. So this is what happens. Why are there these mood swings? Now, in your age group, there are many reasons. One is age related. Okay. So right from early teens to young adulthood, this is a time when body and your brain is going through a lot of changes. So there are hormonal changes, there are neurochemical changes, because the neurons are realigning and the extra ones are dying off. So there's a lot of change, and this is not a very good time emotionally. You're also exploring your individuality. So it's a very chaotic time in life, in any case, irrespective of COVID. So age is one factor. Then circumstances, then personality, and also, like I said, the changes in the neurons. All these things together make it like, and mood is like going once from very high excited level to the low depressed level, negativistic and angry. All these things, like they are coming to the extreme. So what do? Like we have to listen to our own self, listen to the person across, accept your own emotions, and empathize as much with them as with yourself. This is very important, because we feel like, in our culture, we feel like if you pay attention to yourself, like self-care, or listen to yourself, listen to what your mind is saying, because of the culture and because of the way our community is made, we feel it's not done. But actually, it's very, very much required. Only when you're totally in touch with yourself can you relate to what is happening around, and you can go out and do your thing. You can also relate to others better if you're in touch with yourself. All right. Then the second thing is there's a lot of miscommunication. There's like, people are thrown together 24/7 now. And a lot of communication outside is on text or sometimes on calls and video calls, etc., etc. But it's different because it comes with a lot of layers. And because of that, again, whatever is said, whatever is done, sometimes get misinterpreted. Like I said, we assume things. And then there is like, you lose your mood and then you feel like this is a pattern and it happens all the time. And then we keep on perpetuating it. All right. Now, the other thing is that we keep thinking in a loop. Okay. Recurrent kind of like, keeping on ruminating about something. Why is this happening? My life is gone in a mess and my future is lost and I was going to get this job and I was planning on this and this is happening, that is not happening. But actually that's what has happened, right? Everything has gone on for a toss. Like people's weddings are put on a hold, trips are being cancelled, exams are cancelled, there are internships which are not happening, or they're happening only online. So it's very different and it's real. However, the point is we keep thinking in a loop. It's not going to change the thing. It just keeps on boring into your brain and producing more and more negativity. So that doesn't help. So we got to snap out of it. The thing is, we think that, we have this fantasy trap. We have this, wishful thinking. We have this image that like my life has to be like this and my partner has to be like this and my job must be like this, etc., etc. So that makes us feel that we are entitled to a best of life. And half the time we don't even know the definition ourselves, but whatever. But we want it. Like we want an ideal life. So we feel jealous, we feel put down, we feel like, why is it unfair? Why is it happening just now when I was about to do this and that and the other? But problem is, fantasy is fantasy. It's a mirage. It's not real. So we got to be in the now. The reality is what you can see around. And you got to deal with that. All right. So what can you do? You can cry. You can play victim. You can say, oh, it's like so bad and crave and cry and like not do anything about it. Or you can become like the mole. It burrows and burrows and digs and digs and digs. And it finds a way around the stones or whatever it is, and it makes its own tunnel. So you have to be like the mole. Nobody pays attention to the mole usually, right? But it's a very, very clever and an innovative. It never gives up. That's what we got to do. Be a mole. All right. Then what we need to do is we have to reflect. Whatever the emotions were, by using all these techniques, what is now the frequency of my upsetness? How intense is it? Is it better than before? So you do this self-evaluation. So you refine the techniques. What works for you? Because it's not some one size fits all. What works for you? What makes you feel good? What makes you feel more in touch with your reality? More goal-oriented? Choose what you have to do. You can do all those things, right? So that is what is going to give you that sense of anchoring. So some things of life are really gone out of hand, but what you can focus on that. Disruption of life as we know it has been a major problem. All right. There is no structure. Like, I mean, there are classes, of course. I'm sure there are lectures already started, but other than that, like you get up sometime, you like, there's no structure to the day as it was before. You don't like, maybe you were making plans with friends or like maybe go to play cricket or something else. Now there's nothing. And that makes you feel like out of sorts, as if like, like a kite that's been like the string has been cut. It's just floating. That doesn't give you a very good feeling either. So what you do is you put a structure to your day. When you put a structure, it doesn't need to be like one fixed timetable, like every half an hour I'm going to do something. It's not like that. But you make a loose structure. They have to have a certain set of things that you will do daily. So it could be about self-care. So you like, you sleep on time, you eat, you have your bath and you tidy up your things, maybe attend lectures, maybe you look out for some hobby, learn something new, whatever it might be. And together with that, what you have to do is keep that time and space a little flexible. So keep time for doing things spontaneously. Chalo, I want to make some food today. Like I want to try out some new recipe, or I want to like, stitch masks. I want to go and help out in some shelter, something, whatever. You want to do these kind of things spontaneously, and you need to have some time kept for doing nothing. Now, coming from us, like the parent type of people, I think it must be sounding very odd to you all, but it's very important. Doing nothing is something very, very important. Why? Because that gives your brain time and space and energy to process things. Actually, now, like especially us in the cities, we are in a generation where like we are on the fourth gear all the time, like supersonic speed, and we are rushing and we are running and we don't know what we are doing. And we feel like, the competition becomes so unhealthy. Half the time we are competing with ourselves, half the time we are competing with someone else, and we don't know why we are running. We don't know what we want. So it's time you stop, breathe. So all this, what I'm talking about, the structure to the day are like pillars around which you build the building. And the foundation is belief in self. If you're running all the time, from where are you going to get the time to reflect and be in touch with yourself? So you need to slow down. And the structure and the belief that you will have in self is going to help you. Because from there, you go one step ahead, one step ahead, one step ahead. Okay. So create a new schedule. Important is that adversity that we are facing just now has to be turned around 180 degrees and made into a learning lab. You're getting it free, right? Otherwise, you would be paying thousands and thousands of rupees to learn how to cope with something, and some high funda, like, some workshop you would attend and something, and like you get some very expensive certificate and stuff like that. But that is just theory. And even if there is practical, it's not real life. Finally, you've got to come back home and apply it in real life. Whatever you learn, even in a course that you do, you will have to apply in real life. So here you are getting it ready-made. Okay. So you do that, you make your family and your friends, even online, whoever you meet, you make them your guinea pigs. Create a learning lab. Find ways in which you can communicate differently to be more effective without draining yourself of energy. How do I get my meaning across? Who's the person across? How can they understand? This is what you can do. How can I work around? Can I think of, like, there are these games where you think up of words within a certain time. So find out, like, how can I think of 5 different ways to tackle this particular situation rather than zeroing on one. See, because our brain thinks of one, and you stick to that. You don't think of alternative. Like, just today, when we were looking at, like, my network just crashed and we were looking at alternatives. It's like, okay, try this, try that, try that, try that. Like, we tried 6 different things and finally now I'm sure. But if we didn't do that, I would be breaking my head and I would be cursing, like my network provider, and I will like probably kill him or whatever. But no, the goal is that we've got to get this started. So if we have that, we can keep all that thing aside and go get it. So once you've done it, though you're irritated that the network didn't work, at least I'm happy, I'm here, and I'm talking to you all, right? So that cannot get decimated because of that event, which is already in 1 hour behind. That's in my past. In my present, I'm happy and I'm doing things with you all, right? So that's what matters. That is what counts. So coming to this now, adversity, when we talk of adversity, we've got to touch a very sensitive topic. I'm sure many of you all face it, right? The name of this adversity is parents. Okay, right? I wish I could see so many of you all. I'm sure there will be broad smiles on your face. Parents and maybe sometimes even siblings, but let's stick to parents because, like, they are the boss. Okay, so what happens? You are stuck 24/7 with parents and they are like watching you. They are doing their own work, but they are still watching you. And it's like, do this, don't do this, do this. Like, you're not doing anything in the house. You're not helping out. Oh, why did you do this? Say you don't know to do anything. Why are you on the internet? Why are you on the phone? Why are you not sleeping? Why are you getting up late? So on and so forth, right? And it is irritating. It's almost like you're in a cage and like somebody's poking you all the time, right? Doesn't feel good. And then what do? Either, like, you go to that, either the, oh my God, Like, what do I do? What do I now? They're going to scream at me. I don't want this. Or you go to what the hell? I'll do what I want. Who are you to, etc., etc. Or you are scared. You do it hidingly. You're all the time palpitating. This doesn't work, right? Are you getting any pleasure out of doing what you're doing? No. So what do? We change the way we approach the problem. Instead of the person, the parents, we go to the issue. What is the issue? That their manner is bothering me. Okay. So whether we like it or not, actually parents are people. We forget that parents are people. And people come with their limitations. People come with their quirks, their nature, the way in which they have learned when they're grown up, their anxieties, their worries, their, like, whatever is there on their mind, whatever dreams they have for you, they are not able to convey it properly, because for them also amygdala hijack. Remember this word. Everywhere, anybody, any age, we are prone to amygdala hijack. So that's what happens. And then they see this happening, like, and they are thinking 20 years ahead. Like, you are at an age like maybe 18, 20, whatever it is, and they are thinking, oh my God, my son or my daughter, 10 years down the line, 30 years, 40 years, they are useless. They are like so lazy. They're not doing anything. They're not going to study. They're going to fail. They are going to have a mediocre job. They're going to mess up their life. So, see, this is the loop that I was talking about earlier, that troop of terribilization keeps on growing, keeps on growing, keeps on growing. And finally, when they tell you, already all that anger and that angst and that anxiety makes a very potent mixture, and it's thrown on you. And you're like, what's hit me? I mean, why? I mean, leave it. Like, everybody is doing this. And then you start the war. Now, it doesn't help you, doesn't help them. Even though you get your way, it still doesn't help, right? So what do? Change our communication. What we have to do is leave the words aside, what they are saying. The point is address their emotion. So we are learning empathetic communication. Say to them that, okay, so now that you're seeing me at home and you're worried about me, I know that you care. And therefore you want me to do this, that, and the other. But when you say to me like this, I feel very bad. So you're expressing your emotion and you're acknowledging their emotion. And you're being assertive. You can be assertive. Like, please do not talk to me like this. When you have some work for me, explain to me and I'll try to. And then you keep your bargain. You have to keep your word. Otherwise, it doesn't work. One-sided story never works, right? So this is what I mean. Like, instead of making them, nobody is an ideal dad or an ideal mom or whatever, right? We are not ideal either, are we? No. So instead of that, look at them as persons. What is their characteristic? What is the personality? What are their fears? What are the things that makes them feel relaxed? If you look at them as persons, then you know how to approach them rather than the role. Like, if you've seen too many films, then that's what's happened, right? Too many films and too many serials, you expect the ideal. No. What we need to do is look at them as real life people and expect accordingly and talk to them accordingly. Because when you approach directly, that's when you're getting across, not in a standard format. It has to be specific, right? So this, when you do, you have to experiment, you have to explore, you have to see what works for you, what makes things better between you all. So there's no standard format. You'll have to explore. And I'm sure you've done it also. However, you lose interest, you lose patience, because it has to be done over a period of time. Because what happens is, when you change your tactic, they don't recognize it. They look at you like, oh, like, what has happened to my boy? Like, he's not glaring at me anymore. Or like, my daughter is not muttering in a sullen way. And like, so they're formouts, like they get confused. But for them to understand that the change is there in you to stay, you got to do it consistently. Then slowly they'll come around, like, kya hua? Like, what's wrong? Why are you being different? And you can explain that you're growing up, you're getting more charge of yourself. And that's a very, very reassuring thing for a parent. And you can see the change in them later, hopefully. Okay, otherwise you will come and catch me. Anyway, so the other thing that we see is this feeling of emptiness. It's the same thing what is happening because of the lack of structure and this uncertainty and everything. But apart from all that, there's a very major thing. In the last couple of years, like maybe 20, 30 years or so, there is a sudden rise in media use as well as variety. Okay. And we have got used to everything instant. Life has turned inside out. Okay. And everything right from our identity, our sense of self, our entertainment, our learning, education, everything we are getting directly from outside. There's no, like, there's very little that we give. It's like all ready made, you know, and sometimes even custom made. But what is happening here? So, you know, like even something as simple as like you surf the internet, Google uncle is telling you which videos you should watch. Then Facebook is insisting you be friends with these people. And then like news and advertisements, though they're superb. Like they will tell you, like you know, in a very nice, subtle way. You buy this brand, you do this, you use this, whatever it is, and only then you are a person worthy. Otherwise, you're nothing. So they don't say it in so many words, but it's very subtle. It's almost like brainwashing. And I don't know if you like that. Do you like being brainwashed, or do you want to use your own brain? Right? The other thing is, you know, like this whole thing is, you know, because we are in an instant zamana, like everything is instant, like we instant coffee, instant upma, instant cake mix, instant noodles, and instant messaging. And then if you don't get an instant response to it, you've had it. Then we feel like, oh my God, nobody loves you. I am not wanted. I have no friends, etc., etc. And then you go down in the dumps. All right. Actually, to tell you the truth, there's this virus which is really far worse than COVID. Okay, I'm sure nobody knows it. It's a secret. Nobody knows it. It is called TBT virus. Ever heard of it? No, right? Okay, so let me explain. The full name is 2 blue ticks virus. Okay, that means you send a message and you can see that the person has seen it and there is no response. It corrodes you, it eats you up, it eats you up your sense of self-worth and it demolishes you. All right. So, are you wanting to do that? Like dependent so much on outside validation that you are constantly seeking that, like dopamine, you know, like every now and then, like you want somebody saying that you are okay, you're liked, you're wanted. You need to have, like, you know, so many friends and you need to have 500 likes and need to have so many followers on Instagram. All that is coming as an outer thing. So we are becoming so dependent on the outer thing, therefore there's emptiness inside. And we are filling it up with all this rubbish. So what you need to do, if you want to get rid of this emptiness, that's what we need to do. Remove all that rubbish, throw it out, and produce your own sense of self from within. That is going to stay with you because that creates, you know, like a slow, steady, warm glow that enhances your personality, and that is what is going to draw people to you, and those people will stay. They are not the fly-by-night friends. They will stay. All right. So how do you do that? Recognize yourself. Look at yourself honestly. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my hidden talents? What are my thinking patterns? Out of that, what is productive, what is helpful, and what is not? Do what you want to do with it. See what you want to keep, see what you want to modify. Okay. It isn't as if, like, you know, like somewhere down the line, we have to be these perfect people. No, never. We are never perfect. And that is the beauty of it, because imperfection is what gives you the beauty. Okay. Otherwise, we'll all be like robots, right? Robots. Yeah. Everybody is like everybody else. That doesn't work. We are all unique. And, you know, we have those imperfections. That is what makes us interesting. Right. So appreciate yourself and give kind, compassionate attention. So I'm not talking about like being proud and self-centered. I'm talking about being self-aware. And that is important, because if you get that sense of self from within, that is the mainstay. Then if you get appreciation from outside, that's an additional bonus. That's not your main thing. Then if sometimes somebody criticizes, you're able to take it. Then you're able to weather the ups and downs of life. And ups and downs are going to happen anyways, whether we like it or not. Always. All right. So the steady feeling of calm happiness, that happiness which has got that staying power, that is going to come only when you start being in touch with yourself. Right. So anyway, see, like I was saying, it's never going to be very steady. So these are difficult times. There's no two questions about it. And these are uncertain times. Nobody can guarantee when all this is going to end, how it is going to end. We'll like work at it along the way. We are not going to like sit on the sidewalks like, okay, fine, you finish making the road and then I will walk. No. You are going to have to contribute and you're going to have to create those little paths where you want to walk. Right? So the choice is yours. Now, what all do we do? There is media. See, we have like been bombarded so much by media everywhere. There is social media and there is news media. There's print media. Probably the better print media is less toxic compared to the TV and social media. But there is so much being bombarded. Do you really need it? Now, in between, there was this whole thing of migrant workers and doctors dying and police personnel and army people and all those things. Of course, you got to feel for them and you will and you must. But when it gets hyped and when there is a lot of politics brought in and all, do you need that kind of toxicity? So you make a choice. You choose what to see, what not to see, how much to take home with you. All right. So you should be the decider, not the people who are serving you, not the service provider. You choose, and therefore you have to be aware of one thing. The tenet of life is that nothing is permanent. Whether it is good, whether it is bad, nothing is permanent. See, I mean, I know that most of you have never actually seen war, right? I'm sure. But other things we have experienced serious calamities. We have experienced, like in the south, I think there are some people, some of the students from south, you all have experienced recently the viral episode which was controlled very nicely with cooperation. Then there is tidal waves, there is like a lot of natural calamities, there is war, there are riots, there is terrorist attack, so many different things. There are floods, like in Bombay we have floods all the time. So this is what I mean, like when all these things are happening, all these ups and downs are going to be there. Don't you think at each point of time we said, oh my God, all is lost and how are things going to come back to normal ever again? People have lost their houses, their whole belongings. They don't like lost family members, right? But that was then. At that time, everybody must have felt, oh my God, all is lost. People who have been in World War II for years and years, they've stayed in concentration camps. They had absolutely no cognizance. I don't know if you've heard of Viktor Frankl and his book, The Man's Search for Meaning. It's really worth reading. It's a tiny book, but it's like full of like real solid gyan because he's lived it. So anyway, so coming back to the point, this is what it is like. There are calamities, small and big, in our life, in our society, in our family, in the world, and it comes around. So nothing is going to be permanent. If we keep on looking at it as like, we keep on fanning that negative thought and keep on going into the loop, we are doing ourselves a disservice. So if you get that thought, pinch yourself hard, bite your tongue, say stop. Stop right there. Go to the breathing, calm down, write down your thought on paper, because when you write, you get clarity. When you try to work in your brain, it's all a big mess. Write down. And then look at history, actually. If required, the history of the country or the state or the area, but mostly it's your own history. See, because I'm sure in all these years, you all are all like, whatever, 20 odd years old. In the last 10 years, there must have been so many times when you would have thought that, oh my God, my life has collapsed and all is lost or whatever, and I'm never going to survive this, some problem that might have come. Somebody has had a breakup, somebody has failed in an exam, somebody was expecting so-and-so admission and nothing happens. Like, sometimes things just go wrong. and you thought like all is lost, I don't want to live anymore, and all those kind of things, and which is at that point the first natural reaction. Okay. However, just imagine how many times have you actually thought of this, your own life, last 10 years, you must have thought at least 100 times, small and big, in intensity, that, oh shit, what is happening and why is this, and like all is lost and I'm never going to be able to recover. And most of those things never happened. They were only in your imagination. And the 1 or 2 times that it did happen, because everybody has calamity sometime or the other, some problem in life, you fell down and out, but then you stood up. You went ahead after a while, right? And that's why you're here now. So look at your own history. You don't need to look at some role model and some Mahatma and all to know all this. Learn from your own life. Things happen. Bad things happen, terrible things happen, unexpected things happen. But life comes around and you got to be ready when it comes around. You can't be sitting out there and crying. Right? Okay. So I think, like, maybe, I don't know how long I've been talking. It's like really whatever. I think enough. Like, I don't want to just keep on going at it. Let me just summarize a little. Okay. So we know that the situation is uncertain. That's the bottom line. Situation is uncertain. Now, if we go at what if, only if this happened, why the hell this happened, whatever, then it's working against us. So we've got to be in the here and now. And what can I do? Whose help I can take? So the how part of it, right? Here and now and how. These are your tools. All right. Uncertain and unpleasant doesn't necessarily mean doom. It's not terrible. It's unpleasant, it's inconvenient, but it's not necessarily always the most terrible thing. Okay. Then allow for feelings. We are not Gautam Buddha. Okay. We are not, that realized soul. So we will feel. We are human beings. We will feel. Allow for that feeling, but just see that you sense it early. That's why you have to do the mindful scan of the body. Sense it early and come back to normal. Try to do it as early as possible so that you don't drain yourself of energy. You don't waste time. Okay. So accept the emotions and deal with them as early as possible. Then in difficult times, the sensible thing to do is take precaution. Be cautious, not paranoid. Neither should you be lax and totally apathetic. Be cautious, be sensible, be practical. That is what you should do in any kind of calamity or any kind of small or big situation. Okay. Then we have to accept that this is grief and there is loss. Okay. We can't just shove it under the carpet. This is a real thing. So we've got to actually process it. We've got to allow it to flow. Go with the flow and see what happens. Okay. This, like, if it's not like an electrical switch that we can just switch off this feeling of horrible feeling of grief, of sense of loss. So you allow it, you let your mind process it, be with yourself, and that is what will help. All right. Don't magnify it at the same time. Don't perpetuate or don't put in your own additional emotions. And finally, we have to understand that while all these negative emotions are also there in this process of grief, there is also hope and acceptance. Okay. Finally, we come to that. Instead of being resigned, to be in contact with the hope and acceptance that can make things work for you. That lightens up everything. This is your weapon and this is your armor also. It gives you a closure, because it isn't that, we can have a defined closure that, okay, after so-and-so days and months, we are going to have a vaccine and then everybody on earth is going to be free. So see, with the smallpox vaccine, it took years and years and years and decades. It took so long to declare that the world is free. So if we had started crying at back then and say, oh, I want it to be free in 1 year, it's not happening, right? So practicality, acceptance of emotions and of the situation is your tool. That is going to give you the closure rather than any outside factors. So okay, fine, I'm not happy about this, keep that aside. I'm going to focus on things that give me something. All right. Then you pull a fast one on destiny. So wherever there's adversity, turn it to creative growth, turn it to a learning lab. Focus on self-care. That is not negotiable. Defy the outside pressures. There will be peer pressure, there'll be media pressure, there'll be political pressure, there'll be all sorts of things. But you take a breath, take a step back, come out of the boxing ring and decide what works for you. All right. And slow down. Slow down and start living rather than running. Focus on communication, which is very much ignored. Be in the here and now and smile. You know, smiling and use of humor, subtle, sensible humor. Don't crack jokes at the wrong place. Use that to lighten up things for yourself so that you can recharge immediately. Okay. And use both the ears. You see, listen. Like we've given 2 years not for any other reason, because we need to listen more rather than assume and rather than pounce on somebody. Keep talking, listen. Understand, listen to understand, not to react, but to understand the feeling, understand the pauses, understand the words which are beyond all this. Okay. Relate to the person and not to just the words. Okay. So choose reality over fantasy. Okay. Fantasy is good to dream about, but you are in your reality. So, but you can work at how much of that fantasy can you make your reality over a period of time. So have a game plan, keep modifying it, see what you can do about it. That gives you an anchor to do. Now you're asking about what do I do? There's so much free time. So this is what you can do. Finally, anxiety and fear. This is like one dark space, like, as if, there's a closed dark space and you're afraid, like what's within. So open that door. Talk, like, there's a lot of shame attached to talking about this. We feel like, oh, it looks weak, but it's not that. Open that door. If you talk, a whole lot of other people are also going to talk. Yeah, even I felt that way. That is what happens. And anger, that hijacks the brain. Remember amygdala hijack? One. Anger, anxiety, fear, yes, it hijacks the amygdala, but anger is the most potent. So we've got to be very, very careful. So no perceptions, no presumptions, no perpetuation of things, because life is dynamic. Did you know that you will be here today? No. You didn't know it a couple of days back, but you are. So these are the kind of things. You don't know what's going to happen ahead. Be ready for it. Take whatever is a positive and grab it. Make your life happen. All right. So finally, I would say follow your heart. Believe in yourself. Okay. That is what you're going to get you, because tomorrow belongs to you. All right. Thank you so much. I'm like glad that I could share all these things with you. It makes me feel connected.
Thank you so much, Sulabha ma'am. I'm sure all these practical tips that you shared will help us not react to the situation that we are in, but respond to it more meaningfully. I'm sorry if there's a background noise from my end, because there is somebody who is clearly having an amygdala hijack in my society, and there's a showdown here.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm glad that you also talked about diverse situations that we could be in, dealing with our parents, dealing with our siblings, dealing with things more meaningfully and mindfully. I'm sure a lot of questions must be generated by the fact that we have been engaging with so many diverse aspects of today's topic. I now hand it over to Kavita ma'am, so that she can facilitate the session on questions and ask you to respond to each one of them.
Sure.
Over to Kavita ma'am.
Thank you, Meet. There are a few questions that I would put across, ma'am. One of the questions that has been asked was, how long or frequently mindfulness has to be practiced?
Oh, mindfulness is a way of life. It is not a technique. You got to be it. You got to live it. So it is daily, minute to minute. If you do, that's the best. But you can start off with, you can see on net, you can get a couple of mindfulness related breathing meditation videos or mindfulness body scan videos, or you can join whenever possible, actual one-on-one or a group, small group kind of a workshop, because practical practically, if you do it, really it helps. But other than that, you can try, looking at the videos on available on YouTube under mindfulness. There is also a site. If you look for it, there is also a site for mindfulness-based videos, and a group that is conducting many workshops also. These are all online. So you can go there and just don't look at it blindly. Just don't follow blindly. Listen to each and listen with your heart and see where you find tuning. So it's not that everything will be suitable for you, but where you find that tuning, where you feel the connect. Mindfulness is all about instinct, you see. It's about instinct and energy and where you find that exchange. So that is your video. So you can follow that. You can do it every day to begin with. And that slow and deep breathing should become your constant over a period of time. If you practice, it does become. So I started long back, and luckily for me, what has happened is my breathing is now half of what a general average person would be. And I have seen that, in the worst kind of situation, I mean, I was in an accident once, like, a scooter like banged into me and threw me off. Even with that, I could like keep my senses, collected my stuff, and like, I could manage everything well. And I give full credit to the mixture of mindfulness, Gestalt, and REBT. Okay, so this is what it is. It has to be a way of life. It cannot be how often I practice. You start off with once a day, maybe, but you got to start making it your thing. Like, take it within and imbibe it.
Absolutely, ma'am. I agree with you on that. However, there are a few questions related. The students are there, so the questions are also associated with how they feel right now, with all the uncertainty that's happening. So yes, they want to know how they can manage and they can face these uncertain situations, because right now they are not in a position to be in contact with any authorities as such. So how is it that they can face and they can handle this uncertainty, because their opinions are not mattering right now, what they feel and what they think as such. So what can be done and how can they deal with that kind of thing? Is what they would like.
Okay. So you know what I feel is, when we talk about this uncertainty, there's a lot of ambiguity in it. So what I would suggest to the students who are having this problem is, you put it down on paper, what all do you think is uncertain. So the more detailing you do, the more clarity you get. Okay, so you put it down on paper, what all do you feel are the areas which you need to address. Then do further subdivisions and keep doing it till you come to a point where you feel, out of these are the most important things. So don't look at the whole thing like it's like a big burden. Otherwise, it feels like the whole life is a burden. Instead of that, break it down and prioritize. These are the two areas which I want to address now. And then ask around. Think of your own and then ask around. These are the things. This is what I've thought of. Do you have any other idea? So you've got to network within your peer group, with the adults in your surroundings, or maybe on the internet. There are a lot of people out there helping each other. So this is what you have to do. Now, if there is something where an authority is not reachable, what could be the reasons? Think about it. Instead of that, if we keep thinking, oh my God, like, this is just my bad luck, not working. Because then you're not going to find, if you believe it's bad luck, your brain goes on a shutdown. The brain says, okay, fine, you don't want to look for solution, fine, I go to sleep. See, what you have to say is, okay, fine, this avenue is not there. Are there other avenues? And if there are none after having tried, then you got to just sit back and say, okay, fine, I'm keeping it for later. Let me tackle what I can do just now. Okay. So detailing is extremely important in these things. And also, when these things are happening, the people are feeling trapped. People are feeling like, like my whole life plan is gone astray. So what they need to do is alter that plan. Okay. With it, now the foreseeable circumstances, what are the alterations they can do that they can, it's not going to be forever. Like, when the change happens, they can go to the next level of the plan. But as of now, what can they alter so that they can, it's a doable thing. It has to be practical, doable, feasible. Okay. So if they do that, they start off with that, they engage there, then they can start, because the brain starts opening up and then they find other avenues. Okay. If it is a problem where because of certain like, I don't know, like technical problems, some authority having some legal issue or some administrative issue or something like that, then are there other student bodies which can approach in a collective thing, put up a petition, approach, I don't know, some like, recognized person in the society. So all these kind of different things you all need to. So this is a very, since it's a very vague question, I can't be very specific, but this is a general format. Whenever there's uncertainty, it is ambiguous, start putting it, detailing it. The more clarity you get, then you zero in on what is important and what is doable just now. That's it.
There is also a question wherein they want to know.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you, Kavita.
Am I audible now, ma'am?
Yeah, it's a better thing.
Yeah, there is also a question regarding the difference between mindfulness and meditation. Is there a difference between that?
Okay. Okay. So there may be a little bit of an overlap. Meditation generally is also in yogic practices, right? Whereas mindfulness is more about awareness of body. Meditation is about thought and being thoughtless. Whereas mindfulness is not necessarily about being thoughtless, it's about being aware of the body, aware of sensations, aware of your emotions, aware of your thoughts. It's being present without being involved. Understand? So there is a subtle difference. In meditation, there is a purpose and there is a direction and there is a certain format to go by. Okay, so depending on what meditation you're doing, that is what it is. However, in mindfulness, it is more free flowing. It's up to you, and you go by how smoothly, like how you would float down a stream. It is more like that. All right. So I'd like to give a metaphor. I would look at meditation as water let out of a dam, whereas mindfulness is floating down the stream in a. Okay. So there are some parallels. I mean, there are some overlaps, but it's not the same thing.
Okay. There is also another question. Someone would like to know, okay, how can a person, start the process of healing if there is a death in the family due to the current scenario, the pandemic?
Absolutely. So this is a very, very present and clear danger that I had been talking about, like, because this is not something that now happens to someone else in some other country. It's happening in our house, it's happening to our neighbors, etc., etc. So see, the thing is, death, unfortunately, is a very permanent reality. Okay. And it is a reality irrespective of COVID. It has happened everywhere all the time. I mean, that is the one fact. Like, you're born, you live, you die, right? However, at this time, we cannot take such a philosophical approach to it because emotions run high. That is where that earlier thing, what I was talking about, that sense of loss, we have to acknowledge it. We've got to allow that process to happen. Just because we understand that, oh, okay, like this is a fact of life, that doesn't mean that the emotions will go away. So you go through that whole, this 5 or 6 stages of grief that are there, from disbelief to anger to, depression, to anxiety, to resignation, hope, acceptance, all these things. And once you come to that stage of acceptance over a period of time, now somebody will, get over it fast. Some people, like, you take help of anything. Some people rely on spirituality. Some people rely on some, processes depending on whatever their religion might be. Some people take help of their friends and relatives, connecting with them and like spending time with them. Some people start work, like work or studies all of a sudden with great force because they want to focus on that and not remember all these things. So there are many of these things. You remember I had talked about distraction. So these are the things we do. These are some coping mechanisms we can use to begin with. But finally, we've got to go within and ask ourselves, what does this loss mean to me? And accept that it is a loss. We can't be on a denial. It is a loss. Then slowly, we've got to graduate from why is it happening? I miss this person, this, that, and the other, to understanding that while the body is always there, that is in the connect, that is in the soul. Now it depends on whether this person might be the type who will believe in this kind of a talk. Good memories of that person are going to be there with you. So it depends on your belief system, how you want to tackle it, right? So if it is about, memories, then you start actively recollecting the good that you can tie them with you rather than only. And yeah, that doesn't mean that it's going to wipe out the void that comes. But slowly, over a period of time, you heal because you accept, because acceptance gives you that closure. You remember I talked about closure? That is what happens. Acceptance that this is a fact. It has given me pain. However, this is my reality. Your reality and being truthful to it. So here I would suggest, like earlier also when we talked about mood swings or when these kind of things happen, when there's loss and like sometimes more than one person in a family, you face loss. So in this kind of circumstances, when emotions are very high and you're feeling like the effect on the body, because then the body also starts feeling that emotional turmoil. If it is happening again and again, or if it is not going over a period of time, and if it is also visible to others, sometimes it comes out as irritation, aggression, sometimes it comes out as withdrawal. If these kind of things are happening, then you should seek help from mental health personnel or talk it out to somebody you trust, somebody who can understand. Keeping it bottled up is what makes it worse. So yeah.
Okay. One more question. Now, this is related to the fact that sometimes we have these emotional outbursts, and most of the time we assume that they are associated with something that is in the past or past experiences as such, and it may be we are not able to actually pinpoint what exactly it is coming out from. So, how can we identify these hidden emotions, or how do we actually pinpoint on those things? What can be done?
So see, if we stop short at the external manifestation, outburst, okay? If we just stop at acting out, like, manifesting it, the emotion, then we are never going to find out. What earlier I had talked about, once the emotion comes down, you've got to introspect, go within, search. And if you can find a pattern, when these certain triggers are there, this is how I react. This is my thinking pattern. So you've got to go back to how your thinking circuits have been primed. What is your pattern in that area? If you can find that, then you can work backwards to finding what could be the trigger point, what could be the cause of that past incident. But to tell you honestly, this is something like you'd rather do with a professional. It's pretty risky if you go inside and you find that there's something like there are demons, there are so many things, and if you cannot contain it, then you're doing more harm to yourself than anything. So if you're trying to find something about a past hurt, definitely you should seek help of a mental health professional. Don't do it on your own. All right. But on the other hand, I'm asking you, say suppose I find that 10 years back somebody had cheated on me. Okay, I was in love and somebody had cheated on me 5 years back. Okay, and I understand now that, okay, I thought I had got over it, but every now and then when somebody tries to come close to me, I so accurate and like whatever, I'm very rude and I don't trust and so on and so forth. And I see this pattern. And then I go back and I find that, oh, it is because of that. It's not necessary that that's going to heal you. Healing is something else altogether. All right. Very often just accepting that it is okay to be vulnerable. What am I feeling when I don't trust, or when I'm having an outburst? Usually an outburst is because I'm feeling insecure. Nobody is like born violent. Nobody wants to be aggressive. It is because we are insecure inside. So we try to protect ourselves. Like I said, no, anger is the best defense. Aggression is the best defense. So that's what happens. So you've got to ask yourself, what am I insecure about? What am I scared of? Usually anger is the, like secondary emotion. It's like the manifested emotion, but inside that, deep within, there are many different things. There is feeling of insecurity, cheated, fear, anxiety, distress, disbelief, denial, so many things. Where is that anger coming from? You need to see that. And once you see that, you've got to accept that emotion and you've got to deal with it at a body level first. If you can do that, you don't even need to go back to the past. So there are various different ways in which you can do it. So in Gestalt, you don't even need to go to the incident. It's an experience and an emotional experience which can heal an opposite emotional experience which heals the previous one. So it's a therapy work that has to be done. There's no quick fix solution. There are no instant healings.
Kavita ma'am, you'll have to unmute yourself. Kavita ma'am.
Yeah, there is just one question that Manjeet ma'am here has put, which she would like to know is how to get rid of old bad experiences or other behavior.
Okay, so bad behavior. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So see here also, no, what I had talked earlier, our fallacy that the world and the relationship, the people in those roles have to be ideal and they must never disappoint us. So what happens is our expectation, without our realizing, our expectations becomes a demand on them, that you must be like this, you must do this. Your reactions to me must be in a certain way so that I feel good. I don't feel hurt. I don't feel let down, cheated, etc., etc. Okay, so when that happens, and often what happens is we refuse to accept that. Okay, we refuse to accept reality. Bhai, aise nahi ho raha hai. It's not happening that way. We want it to happen, but it's not happening. So we keep on saying no, no, no. But this must be the reason. We keep giving excuses, and we try to keep on finding ways in which our fantasy will come true again. So we've got to let go of that fantasy. So if it's a past hurt, we've got to ask ourselves, maybe, what are the different things that I allowed that fantasy to go on for so long that these experiences stayed with me. Okay. And finally, honestly, to tell you, for any kind of healing, for any kind of letting go of past hurts, forgiveness is the only thing. Okay. And now this forgiveness is a very simple yet a very complicated thing, because it is accepting that everybody is imperfect and everything is imperfect. Everything is in a flux, right? So it is about letting go. It's about telling that, okay, this or you or this incident or whatever has really hurt me. I wish this has not happened. However, it is in my past and I'm not going to let that come into my present. So how do you let go? There are ways in which you can, like symbolically do this, or there are ways in which either mindfulness or Gestalt can help. There's REBT can help, CBT can help. There are many different ways. So what suits this person who's undergoing this, that therapy needs to be applied. So there is, like, I believe in eclectic approach, because it's not that one size fits all, right? So whatever is the person's approach, whatever the personality, beliefs, the general way of functioning, according to that, the therapy has to be designed. But usually past hurt is because we keep it within. Imagine like, there is a thorn that has gone into your heel and you keep it in. What is going to happen? It's going to fester, right? You need to remove the thorn and throw it. You need to remove the pus and the blood that was there. And then you give it time to heal. You do various things where you reconstruct your sense of self, which earlier you were attached to this incident or this person, because they become interdependent very easily, right? Interdependence is good, but this becomes a little over the top, like boundaries lost, right? So this is what I do. Okay? Why is this person still a part of my being once I have decided that this person and this behavior has hurt me? So how can I remove in the sense, you don't need to discard, you can just put a distance, emotional distance between you and that person. Okay, so in short, I can just say that, but then like we need to really be specific about it, and then only it works. So how that Manpreet ma'am, like how this person, whoever is being talked about, how that person's mindset is, how the person's personality and general way of dealing with things is, that will decide the way in which healing process can happen, because it has to be guided.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would request the others to please mail the questions, which I can forward it to Sulabha ma'am later on, and she can answer all your questions and queries that are there. I have put the email ID on the YouTube link. So I would request you all to put all your questions over there. So thank you, ma'am, for patiently answering all the questions that have been asked. I request me to take over.
Thank you, Kavita ma'am, for facilitating the question and answer session so well. The multiple questions that this 1.5 hour have generated is only indicative of the fact that we've all been able to reach out to so many people and touch so many chords so well. I am now making one more small housekeeping announcement, which is about the certificate. So everyone who has participated with us through YouTube and has registered for this webinar will be given an e-certificate, and for that a link for a feedback form will be shared with you on the Telegram group. So please do not fail to feed the correct data in terms of your name, the spelling, etc. Please be careful that the data that you feed into the feedback form is what will be used to generate the certificate. So that am I audible? Yeah. So that the certificate is generated with those details. Now I move to the final formal vote of thanks. And as I'm shouldering this responsibility, I would first and foremost like to thank the SPRJ Kanyashala Trust for being encouraging of the each and every endeavor through the psychology department always. Secondly, Asha ma'am, our approachable and vibrant principal, who has been a constant in terms of support and guidance. We are indebted to Mukta for the live streaming platform and technological assistance, without which today's event could not have had the wide-ranging reach that it has today. Most importantly, I'm grateful to Sulabha ma'am, who, despite the surgical procedure to her hand, continued to spare her time towards this collaboration and gracefully shared her insights and experiences, making today's webinar such a wonderful and insightful learning experience. I would want to acknowledge the efforts put in by our student volunteer Zai Sawant in handling the technological support for the logistics of the event. And finally, most importantly, I would want to appreciate the pivotal ingredient of today's successful webinar, which is each and every participant who patiently stood with us despite all the glitches and engaged with us so wholeheartedly. Looking forward to your enthusiastic participation and support in all our future events. Till then, goodbye, and take very, very good care of yourselves and everyone you love. Thank you. Thank you very much.
stop live streaming.